Hello everyone, thank you for watching this video. In this video, I am going to describe the interview questions that are being asked by the technical panel. Couple of candidates have reached out to me on WhatsApp and they shared these questions with me. I'm going to explain you the answers for these questions, or if possible, I will try to demonstrate on the Azure portal. So let's get started. So there are a couple of interview questions. So I think these are like collection of the questions from different candidates. So I tried to filter out, and this is the finalized version of the question. So this is for the rule of L2, not L2 plus. These are like very basic questions that are being asked. So the first question that are being asked is, how will you block accessing to the portal from the other location? So basically, the question is related to the security for the cloud resources. So if you want to block access for unauthorized locations to your Azure resources or Azure applications, how will you do that? So basically, so we have a solution called conditional access policy and Azure AD. So this settings can be enabled from the Azure AD admin portal or Azure portal. So you have to create a conditional access policy. With the help of conditional access policy, you can block the access for a specific set of users or specific set of groups from a specific set of locations. So you have that option available. So this is one of the security or core security feature that is introduced by Microsoft, I would say, because Azure AD has many security features, but this is the primary one. Most of the organization are going to use it. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So let me log into the Azure portal. So this is my Azure subscriptions and Azure Active Directory. So I basically have the Azure AD Premium P2 license. So if I go to the security section, under the security, you see conditional access. So, but before you go to conditional access policies, what you need to do is you have to first create the locations. Let's say from which locations you want to block the access for the users. Let's say if the users are from UK, maybe from US, maybe they are from different locations, you have some restrictions, you want to place it. So first you have to go to named locations. If you go to named location, you have an option. So I created these locations: Canada, India, UK, and United States. You can click on plus countries locations. This is very hard to provide the name for your location. Let's say I want to block access from, let's take an example. Okay, China, right? So let's say China. So we'll try to block the users accessing from China. So go to China location here, select the China and click on create. So you created the location, and for this location, you can apply the policies. So China is created, and right now this is not associated with any other policies, but you can see India has a couple of policies, and UK has some policies, US have some policies, right? So I'll go to conditional access policy and click on create a new policy. So I'm gonna say block access from China location, right? So select the users whom you want to apply with this policy. If you want to apply this policy for everyone, you can say all users. So always it's better to exclude the administrators. Go to the users and select the administrators. So let's say, so I'm going to exclude this user account because that's administrator account. So then later target resources, for what kind of resources you want to apply this policy. So cloud applications, maybe specific user interaction, user actions, right? Some authentication context you want to apply, you can apply. So in this case, we'll go to the cloud applications and click on selected applications. Under the select section, you can see different applications that are integrated with your Azure Active Directory. So one of them is the Microsoft Azure Admin Portal. So basically this covers everything. So it covers the Azure AD Administration Portal, Microsoft Azure Portal, right? If you want to give a block access for Office 365, you can also do that. Click on select. And once you select the target resources where this policy has to apply, then go to the conditions. And in the conditions, you can specify, you can block this access. The user risk is high, sign-in risk is high, if the device platform is not compliant, and the locations. This is where you are going to specify the locations. Under the locations, you have to go to selected locations and specify the location that you created. Click on China and click select. Okay, so that's all. I think you should be able to go ahead and click on the grant. So under the grant section, you can click on block access. If you want to allow the access, based on certain conditions, you can also allow it. But the question that is being asked is, how do you block the access? So this is how you come to the grant section, click on block access and select. So here you have the policy. Enable policy option has three here: report only, or on or off. So when you say on, so this policy is going to be invoked, and people who are accessing from the China location will be automatically blocked. So I'm going to click on create. So this policy is being enforced, and the users who are accessing from China will not be able to access the Azure environment or Office 365 environment, right? So that's what it's going to block, but it is not blocking the any other resource. Like, if you have any other enterprise application, it should not be blocking. Okay, so that's the first question that I think we can demonstrate. But in case if you want to summarize this, you can say yes, this is possible. So Azure AD have a capabilities of blocking the access to the users or applications based on various conditions. One of the condition is to provide the location. So you have to create the named location, and then you can create a conditional access policy specifying or selecting that location and block the access. Right, so there are options. You can give an exception. You can allow the access based on certain conditions. Let's say you want to give a strong encryption methods. MFA methods. Probably you want to you want the users to enable the multi-factor authentication. Then you can allow. So there are various conditions that you can specify if you want to allow, but otherwise, so conditional access policy is the best feature that can fulfill this requirement. Okay, so that's the answer for this first question. I hope this was helpful. So the next questions I can see, what are the RBAC roles, importance of the RBAC roles, and the global administrator. So before we go to the RBAC roles, let's talk about the global administrator. What is the global administrator? So basically it's an administrator account on the Azure AD. So basically what is Azure AD? It's an identity and access management solution. So basically you are going to specify or create the user accounts and create the groups and integrate enterprise applications. Probably you create some managed entities, SPNs, so which you can use it for various other purpose, right? So basically you need somebody to administrate, like you have a domain administrator, enterprise administrator, and Active Directory. Similarly in Azure AD we have the global administrator. Global administrator can create user accounts, he can manage the user accounts, he can reset the password for the other global administrators, other administrator. It's basically a administrator account which will give you full functionality, full capabilities of managing the Azure Active Directory. Okay, so that's about the global administrator. But you need to understand, so global administrator is specific and dedicated for managing the Azure Active Directory only, right? It has nothing to do with the Azure subscription. So there are questions. Okay, I have a global administrator. I have a user who have permissions on Azure AD as a global administrator, and can he manage the Azure resources? So it is depends, if the user have access to the Azure subscription as a owner or a contributor or with any other specific custom or back role, he'll be able to manage it. Otherwise, by default, though the user is part of Azure AD and he is the global administrator, he cannot manage directly on the Azure subscription unless he has certain permissions given on the Azure subscription. So in simple words, Azure AD permissions are different from the Azure subscription permissions. Okay, so if you want to assign the permissions to the user as a global administrator, you can go to any one of the user. So we have plenty of users. These users are basically part of our enterprise cloud expert program. So you can go to the assigned roles, go to the user properties, and go to assigned roles. Click on add assignments. So this is where you're going to choose the role. Let's say global administrator. So this is how we have to choose the global administrator. In case if your Azure AD is on the enterprise, Azure AD premium P2 license or P1 license, you will get an option to utilize the privileged identity management capabilities, where you are going to specify the eligibility assignment type. What kind of assignment you want to give for user. Let's say you want to give this role to a user permanently or to a specific set of duration. When you say active, so user don't need to activate his role. He will be the global administrator for the permanently. So you just need to provide a justification why you want to give him as a global administrator. Let's say the user is a administrator. Is an admin, right? So you can say click on assign. So this basically assign the permissions permanently, so user don't need to activate it. But if you go to eligible assignments, the user is eligible for the global administrator. Whenever is needed, he has to go to privileged entity management and he has to activate his role. Okay, so in this case we can say eligible assignment, and we can specify what is the duration. So by default it takes for a year, so we can actually change it to months or couple of days. That's all possible. So I'm going to say till September 1st. Okay, and assign this role. So once I assign, so the user will go to the privileged identity management, then the user have to click on my roles, and this is where he go to eligible assignment, and he has to click on activate. So there will be an option called activate, so you should be able to see. Right, so that's about the global administrator, the importance of the global administrator. Okay, so what are the RBAC roles? What is the importance of the RBAC roles? So basically, based on your role, based on your skill, right? In simple words, right? You are going to get access to the Azure subscriptions. So the RBAC roles are not referring to the Azure AD roles. It is referring to the Azure subscriptions. Okay, so Azure subscription have built-in rules, and there are service specific rules. You can also create the custom rules as well. So based on your role, you are going to define what actions you are going to perform, and you are going to get access to them. So by default, there are like built-in rules, as I said. So we have the owner, we have the contributor, and we have the reader roles, right? So based on your experience and expertise, why you have hired, what activities you're going to perform, so you will be getting the required rules. So these are the built-in rules, and there are other built-in rules as well, but I always call them as a service specific rule. Let's say you have the virtual machine, you have the VM contributor, and if it is a backup, you have the backup operator. All right, so these likewise, each service in Azure have its own specific set of roles. They also treat it as a built-in roles, but I generally want to refer this as service specific role. If it's a VM, there's a VM specific role. If it's a backup, there's a backup specific role. There is another set of roles which is like a custom RBAC. So it's based on the customized, you want to customize the roles, maybe because the built-in roles that they have Microsoft has given is not sufficient for your business use cases. Maybe service specific role what Microsoft is offering is not fit for your business use cases. Then you go with the custom role based access control. Basically, you are going to customize the action. So let's say if you go to the VM contributor, right? So VM contributor might have various actions where VM start option, stop option, let's say restart option, maybe delete option, right? These are like delete actions. Like there are set of actions. This role is eligible for it, right? This role can perform. Out of which, you want to create a role where users can just perform a restart operation. That's where you are going to use the custom RBAC and create this role. Okay, so let me just go to the Azure portal and I'll quickly show you. So I have my sponsorship subscription. So I go to access control, and if I go to the roles, this is where you will be able to see the list of roles what Microsoft is offering. Everywhere it says built-in role, the role type you can see here, and category also you can validate. So basically, the owner, contributor, reader, these three I refer as built-in roles, and the remaining things what you see is I would say service specific role, though the type says built-in role, but I always refer this. Each service, API management service you see here, and you see Azure Arc enable Kubernetes service. So these are like service specific roles what Microsoft has introduced, and they have their own purpose. Let's say backup operator. You can see let you manage backup services except the removal of backup, vault creation, etc. Right? So basically you will be able to trigger the backup, you'll be able to initiate a restore, I believe. So you can click on view here, so you'll be able to see the list of actions this role can perform. So there are type as reader, so read. So basically you'll be able to perform certain read operations, a couple of other operations you can see here, right? So these are like built-in role and a service specific role. And if you think these roles are not sufficient for your business cases, that's where you will go with the custom RBAC. Click create a custom RBAC. So click on add custom role and provide the name, let's say restart of your virtual machine, restart VM. So that's the role if you're looking for. Start from the scratch. You have various options. If you have a role that you want to clone it, you can clone it. Maybe if you want to use the JSON format, you can start from the JSON format. So this is a pretty much good start for any user who want to explore the custom RBAC. Click on next, and this is where you have to add the permissions. So each service you can see here Azure AD related services and its components. So earlier Azure AD do not have the customized roles. Now you have an option. So where the Azure AD roles such as the user administrator, global administrator, they can be actually still customized. There are you can create a custom role in Azure AD and apply them to the users and groups. Okay, but likewise, similarly, you have other services too here. So basically, if you talk about the virtual machine, that's a compute resource. We have to look for the Microsoft.compute, and you can see here under the Microsoft Compute, you should be able to see list of actions. So many options are available because compute have the virtual machine scale set and virtual machines, and virtual machine has different operations. You can see here, but I can refer here Microsoft.compute/virtual machines. You have the read operation, write operation, delete virtual machine operation, start, power off, reapply, redeploy, restart. I think this is the role I want. So why I'm choosing this role, right? I have a L1 team. Basically, their job is to monitor the Azure environment. right? In case if they see any server is being critical and the only option is to reboot the server. Let's say they are experiencing the high performance issues and there's no way for us to get inside the server and start troubleshooting. In such scenarios, the only option for us to restart the machine, right? So for that or such kind of requirements, so they don't need to engage the L2 or L3 engineers. So L1 team can basically go ahead and restart the virtual machine to unblock the customer from the outage. So for that reason, let's go with the restart virtual machine operation and click next and click next. So this is where you can see what actions you are going to perform. So Microsoft.compute virtual machines restart actions. So these are the actions. If you want to add more actions, click on edit and put comma here and add your actions. So that's how you do it. And then click on next and create this custom role. So this is how we add the custom role. Once you add the custom role, click on add role assignment, and this is where you'll be able to see your custom roles. You should be able to see the restart role what we created. Yeah, it may take some time to show up here, but ideally you'll be able to see here, and you'll be able to assign this to any users that you want to assign this. All right, so this is about the custom RBAC and RBAC roles. You can see here, restart VM, click on view details, and you can see what action is assigned, what action you can perform, and go to the assignment. You can select the user or the group, click on assign the role. Right, so this is how you do it. This is about the custom RBAC, but in general, right, so most of the organizations go with the custom RBAC rule because it's related to the security aspects. So we want to implement the organization policies where users or application can work with the least privileges. More work has to be done with the least privileges. So that's one of the security aspects. That's why we always go with the custom RBAC. In case if somebody asks you, okay, what is a RBAC and what is the use or benefits of the RBAC, and did you ever implement the RBAC? What are the different use cases? Why you implemented the RBAC? You can start explaining. RBAC is the role-based access control, which is the capability introduced by Microsoft to provide access to the cloud resources such as Azure subscription and resource groups and resources. So we have the built-in roles such as owner, contributor, and reader. There are service-specific roles like a virtual machine contributor, backup operator, backup contributor, and storage contributor. Likewise, each service have its own specific roles available. So based on the user and the task that user is going to perform, or maybe the application that you are using, right? Maybe SPN could be a managed entity that you are going to use it for performing certain actions. You're going to provide access. In case if you think that these service specific roles are built-in roles are not sufficient for your business use cases, that's when you go with the custom RBAC. So we use custom RBAC for most of the scenarios as we want to perform the task with the least privileges. So we go with the custom RBAC. So we have the different custom roles in our organization, which I implemented. So I implemented one for the backup. We want so people to trigger only backup. Couple of users, L1 team should be able to trigger the backup whenever is needed. Let's say application team want to perform some application upgrades, so to avoid the dependency on the L2 or L3 team. So we have created a custom RBAC role, and that custom RBAC will perform an action user will be able to trigger only the backup. So this role we created and assigned to our L1 team, and whenever there is a request come from the application team, they will be able to fulfill this request. And there are other roles, VM operator we created, where user will be able to perform the resize activities or restart activities whenever there is a requirement from the application team or internal team members. So we have that, and likewise for each requirement we have a couple of custom RBACs created. So yeah, so you can just start explaining this. I think this should be more than enough. So when it comes to the issues, you will not be able to see any issues while creating unless you see syntax errors. If you are going with the JSON format, maybe sometimes you will see the required actions not available. You will try to create it. So that's where you might see some problems. And sometimes you see, the user you assign user is not able to perform the certain actions. He was thinking that he might be assigned a custom role and he's not able to perform certain actions. Probably you might have to go to the user and see what are the roles assigned to that user on the subscription or resource group, and you can just start exploring from there. So those are the kind of issues that you might see if you start working with the RBAC. But otherwise, this is pretty much same thing that you can explain to anybody, so they'll be able to understand that uh, you have done this. And so before you go attend for interview, just try to explore, do some POCs, try to understand real business use cases so that you will be able to answer it better. The another question what I see is have you any knowledge about the partner center and what is a partner center? Basically, so the technical panel is trying to understand, do you have any experience with the Azure Partner Center? Uh, so those kind of things that they're asking. So this is nothing related to the Azure admin role, but sometimes you might be dealing with some Microsoft partners, and you might be given certain roles in the partner center. So maybe they might be asking about basically what is a partner center. So partner center, let's say your organization is a partner with Microsoft, so your organization is eligible to provide managed services to Microsoft customers. They are eligible to represent the on behalf of Microsoft, right? So that's a whenever your organization might have signed up for the partnership with Microsoft, that's where you see partner center. So I will quickly show you how it looks like. So we have the partner center available. So we recently got a partnership with Microsoft. So I'm just going to show you how it looks like. So this is how you see Microsoft Partner Center. So you don't deal many as a cloud engineer, you will not be able to deal with this. So basically, you'll be able to see what benefits you have and how many customers you have. So when you sign up for a partnership, you get a partner ID. That partner ID has to be updated to your customers. So you can see here we are Microsoft partners, and you get some benefits as part of the Microsoft partnership program. So we are into Microsoft A and the cloud partner program. So whatever the customers you have, customers you enrolled, or maybe you updated your partner ID in their Azure subscription, you'll be able to see them from here. List of customers, what you have, and who all are using it, what are the benefits they are getting it, what benefits your organization is getting, how many licenses you're getting from Microsoft, how many of them are assigned to your internal users. So that's what you see from the Microsoft Partner Center. It's basically a partnership with the Microsoft and your organization. So you might be given a role to manage certain things, but it's not necessarily to know in detail about this one. Yeah. So that's about the Microsoft partnership or Partner Center. And the other question I see is, can you explain what is multi-factor authentication? Did you ever configure it? So multi-factor authentication is the another layer of security for your Azure logins. So though you enter your user ID password, there are certain situations where your credentials might be compromised, but with the help of additional layer of security such as Microsoft's multi-factor authentication, you can secure your um, logins and your organization data. So that's the importance of the MFA. And as a Azure AD administrator, you are required to configure such policies, MFA policies. So you go to security, again, you see everything will be under security. You go to the security on Azure AD. So you have protection, you have the management, you have the report. So you have many options here. So we talked about the conditional access policies. You have the identity protection, so you have the authentication methods, you have the multi-factor authentication. So we have many options available. If you go to multi-factor authentication, you can set what kind of policies you want to apply for the multi-factor authentication. So when to block the account, when to unblock the account, what do you mean by the fraud alerts? If they want to reset the password, how do you want to, what kind of questions you want to allow, what kind of notifications you want to get it. Like, let's say if somebody having some problem, you get an email, right? So there's another thing called Microsoft authentication methods. And there's something called authentication strength. So you're going to specify how you want to authenticate your users. And you go to the policies. And in the policies, you are going to say password protection. So you can specify how frequently you are going to lock out, and certain conditions you can specify, custom band password list, and all these things you can specify under the security. You have many options here. So one of them is multi-factor authentication. This is like global settings, but in general, if you want to assign the multi-factor authentication to the users, you go to the user section, and there you have an option to um, you know manage the multi-factor authentication. So you can just click on per user MFA. So this will take you to the multi-factor authentication page, where you can assign the MFA for multiple users, disable the MFA for users. So this how you configure it, but you can also control this through conditional access policy. Let's say these users, you want to enable multi-factor authentication. You want them to re-register the MFA, and those things you want to say. Let's say I want to select one user and say disable or enable the MFA. These are like enforced, you can see, which means they already have the MFA enabled. So this how you configure it, and you go to service settings. Under the service settings, you can say what are the authentication methods that users can use to set as a MFA. So they can go for text-based notification through mobile app. They can also go with the verification code from the mobile app or a hardware token. So you can specify what kind of authentication methods you want to allow for your users. So this about the MFA, how you configure it. So if somebody asks you, did you ever configure MFA? You can always say, we did configure the MFA as part of my role. So whenever a new user joins, so we ensure that the user is enabled the multi-factor authentication. So we go to the per user MFA and enable multi-factor authentication, and we have various other places. We go to security, and under the security section, so we have the conditional access policy. We can get one policy. All the users in your organization should have the MFA enabled. You can specify it, and you also have the options like authentication strengths. So within the authentication strength, you are going to specify how you want to create authentication strength, and this authentication strength can be used in the conditional access policy. So basically, you are going to specify what kind of authentication strength you want to specify. Let's say you want users to go with the passwordless MFA and password with the password, or um, some of the options like temporary access pass, password plus multi-factor authentication, password. This is like a authentication strength. You can also start invoke from here. You can just say, let's say, password plus Microsoft Authenticator. when you specify this, maybe let's say passwordless also you specify, click on next and create this authentication strength. And once you create this authentication strength, you can go to the conditional access policy, click on a create a new policy, and you can go to the conditions, um, and here, yeah, you can go to the grant section, and here you can specify require authentication strength. This is where you're going to select the authentication strength that you specified. So either MFA strength for all, maybe you can specify enable MFA for all the users. So you will be able to invoke whatever the policy, right? So basically there are two things. One, you go ahead and provide the settings here, uh, what kind of MFA options they have to get it, either phone, mobile, or notification. You specify here, then come to the conditional access policy, create a conditional access policy where you can specify require multi-factor authentication. When you specify this and assign this policy to all the users, so whoever is join your organization, so they will be able to get this multi-factor authentication invoked automatically. All right, so this is about how you invoke it, but you can go with the next level of security by creating the authentication strength. So that's another option what you have it, but it's an optional for this question. Yes, so multi-factor authentication, did you implement it? You can say that we have implemented in our organization. So we implemented through phone and mobile authentication, and we have a conditional access policy where all the users in our organization has to be enrolled with the MFA. And we have an option to disable MFA for a specific set of users, enable a MFA for a specific set of users. We can create MFA policies, when these user have to be logged out and when the user have to be unblocked automatically. So you can specify those things under the MFA, and you can say that you have done it. So, and do you have any idea about the conditional access policies? And I think this we just explored. So we just implemented this one. And do you have any idea about the Azure AD Connect? So you can say that, yes, I have an idea about the Azure AD Connect. Azure AD Connect tool is used to integrate your on-premises identity or AD with the Azure Active Directory. Or you can say that, it's a tool or a application used to enable the hybrid identity from on-premise AD to Azure AD. So basically it synchronizes the user accounts and groups and objects that you have selected and on AD to Azure AD, and you will be able to configure these sign-in methods, single SSO options. You have many options that you can customize using the Azure AD Connect tool. So though you have not implemented, because it's like one-time setup, most of the organizations usually implement it, but you know how to manage it in case if there is a problem, you know how to troubleshoot, sync service, and there's a AD connector, Azure AD connector. There is a metaverse where you can go to the sync service logs to see how many users are exported, how many users are imported, how many users export is fail or import is fail. You'll be able to see the errors. You will be able to run the force synchronization using the Azure AD Sync module on the Azure AD Connect tool. You'll be able to explain these things if somebody asks you, and you can always go to Azure AD Connect and try to do a POC. You get some more clarity. What is seamless SSO? Basically, SSO is a single sign-on. So there is another option. We say SSO is the same sign-on. So basically, you use on-premises user ID password to log into multiple applications. So basically, same user ID password used to log into multiple applications. That's the same sign-on. We also refer this as SSO, but there's another one, single sign-on. So single sign-on is seamless SSO. Basically, once you logged into your device, so you should be able to get access to the all cloud-based applications. So you shouldn't be inputting your user ID password to log into any other applications. So this is achievable, with the two things. One, your device has to be joined to the domain, the device which you logged in. That's the first thing. And all the applications that you are integrating with your Azure AD, that should have the SSO enabled. So the SSO has to be either through OpenID Connect or SAML. So if you enable SSO with these two things, the user should be able to, get a seamless single sign-on feature enabled automatically, right? So that's about the SSO. And do you have idea about the enterprise applications? Yes, we do have applications in Azure AD. That's one of the core functionality of Azure AD, right? So you have the users and groups, and you have the enterprise applications. We also say it's a SaaS application, software as a service applications. You go to enterprise applications, and you add the required applications for your business. We see a lot of applications, integrated with our Azure Active Directory, and we will be able to configure the SSO and give access to the applications, access to the users and groups. So yeah, this is about the enterprise application. The applications could be any kind of business. It can be HR based, it can be CRM based applications, it can be ITSM tools, it can be any other business application that are available in the Azure Active Directory gallery. You can integrate them into your Azure AD tenant and give access to the users and groups so that they can access these applications with the seamless SSO feature. So that's about the enterprise applications. And if somebody asks you, have you ever implemented? Yes, you can always say that you implemented. So how you implemented, you go ahead and click on new application, search for the application that you want to integrate. Let's say in this case, if I say ServiceNow as an example, click on ServiceNow, select the ServiceNow, and click on create. Let's say it's a demo 2, click on create. And once you integrate this one, there are a couple of other actions you have to perform. So let's wait for this to be created. Once it is integrated, you can see here, you can go to the users and groups and provide access to the required users and groups. That's one thing. And there's another option is like single sign-on. This is what I was referring, SAML-based authentication or a single sign-on. So you will be able to do as an Azure administrator, you will be able to enable SSO, you will be able to add users and groups, and you will be able to configure the user provisioning. But so this to configure SSO, it's not only dealing with the Azure AD, you also should have access to the ServiceNow admin portal. Maybe you need to have an administrator account to configure single sign-on. So you have to update these properties. Either you ask your ServiceNow administrator team to provide this information. Otherwise, if you get access to the ServiceNow admin console, you will be able to configure this, and it's very easy and easy setup that you can do. If you have access, you can go to the configuration guide, and this will have the step-by-step process to configure it, right? So some organizations may not give you access to configure this ServiceNow admin console. You just need to get the information from your ServiceNow administrator. What is the sign-on URL? So basically, when you sign up for the ServiceNow, you get the instance name, and that instance name has to be provided here. Similarly, sign-on URL and reply URL and identifier. So these three has to be updated. And once it is updated, you have to provide this URL to your ServiceNow administrator, and they will be able to update this in their ServiceNow console. Once it is completed, I think there is no further action that you have to do. They will be able to configure it there itself. Okay, so once it is completed, you can just go to users and groups and provide access to the users. And you can also go to provisioning here in case if you want to provide automatic provisioning, which is nothing but whatever the users that are created in Azure AD, if you want them to be synchronized to the ServiceNow admin portal automatically, you go to this option and try to integrate. Maybe you have an option called manual, so you can also create user accounts manually there. Whatever the user accounts you have in the Azure AD, so same user account you have to provision in the service now if it is a manual option. So always we go for the automatic option, and to configure this automatic user provisioning, you have to provide the admin credentials of your service now. So this is where you need admin account. Probably you might have to ask your ServiceNow admin team to do it. Otherwise, you have to get access and you should be able to configure them. So if somebody asks you, did you ever configure, you know, enterprise applications integration, you can say one of the application you do a POC end to end. You can explain that, we have many applications and not every application is being handled by you. So a couple of applications you get access to configure it, couple of them you are depending on different team. So it's not like a straightforward thing that you do in the enterprise. So you have to go with a lot of process and you don't get direct access to it as well. So you might be a global administrator. You will be using privileged entity management. You activate the global administrator role and go to enterprise applications, search the application and create the application in Azure Active Directory. Once you create it, provide access to the users and groups. And if you are eligible to do it, go ahead and configure the single sign-on and collaborate with the required team members and implement it. So if somebody asks you, you can say the same thing, I collaborate with the different team members to fulfill this requirement, right? So you can explain the process, the detailed process given here. If you go through it once, you'll be able to get more clarity about this. Okay, that's about the enterprise applications. Do you ever use privileged entity management? We just activated the privileged entity management. So basically, this is the feature Microsoft introduced to give the privileged role to the users, and the users can activate when it is needed. So for this to implement, you need to have the Azure AD Premium P2 license. It's not available for the Azure AD free tier. Okay, so you have to implement this and assign the licenses so that you will be able to configure this privileged entity management. What is the difference between the user account and SPN? So basically, user account is the employee username and password, what he used to log into cloud-based applications such as Azure AD, Azure Portal, Office 365 and all. SPN is a service principal name. It's like a service account, what you see in on-premise AD. You use this SPN to SPN for the non-interactive authentication. So where you won't be there to provide your username password, you are going to use the SPN name or ID and use the secret that you get from the SPN and use that for authenticating with the Azure services. So let's say you want to fetch the inventory of your Azure virtual machines. You create a script and keep it in the Azure automation runbook and use the SPN based authentication. And you schedule it for every monthly basis. Automatically, the runbook will authenticate and fetch the inventory. So even SPN is moving away. I mean, it's not a best recommended solution. It is better than providing user ID and password. But we have the managed entity, every service. So now it is supporting the managed entity. If you want to use the Azure automation for any automation task, Azure automation have the managed entity. You just need, when you create automation account and enable managed entity, you will get a managed entity details. So you have to provide access to that managed entity. So automatically the automation account can get the required access, and without entering the user ID password, you will be able to authenticate and perform the required task. So that's the difference between the user account and SPN. The SPN used for non-interactive authentication. User account can only be used for the interactive authentication. Okay, so that's about the questions related to the Azure AD. Most likely they are related to Azure AD. There are a couple of other questions which are more relevant to the virtual machines and different virtual machine scenarios. So I'm going to demonstrate them with the couple of labs and use cases. Probably I will try to do it in the another video. This video has become very long or lengthy now. So we'll try to create another video which I explain in detail about these things. So if you have any other question that you if I miss to answer it, probably you want me to answer it, or maybe want you have experienced it, just feel free to put in a comment section, or ping me on WhatsApp, or email me. I will try to guide you so that it will be helpful for you to clear your interviews. So it's not about teaching you how to answer it. So most of us really working on the cloud environment, but we fail to explain the uh, you know our knowledge to the interviewer. So this is just to give you some more confidence. So I'm preparing these videos. If you think that there are more questions to be answered, please do reach out to me. Thank you once again for watching this video. Bye for now.